Hello, welcome. Hey, thank y'all for coming in and watching. I'm so excited. So I'm going to start from the beginning and kind of just go forward. My name is Bethany. I was adopted at birth. Actually, I came home from the hospital when I was 3 days old. My parents are Ann and Jeffrey. And so this is kind of our story that I knew up until recently. So I came home from the doctor or the hospital at 3 days old. I was escorted by Brent police officer, Miss Sheila, and I came home to a house full of people. They were very excited. My parents couldn't have children, so I'm the only child. I grew up knowing that I was adopted. My parents and my family have always shared with me that I was adopted, so it's never been like a secret in my life. And I have always been open and honest about it throughout my life. When I went to college and whenever I joined my current church, and anytime I meet new people, they always, when the story of my adoption comes up, they are always like super interested. Well, do you know your biological family? Have you ever heard of them? Blah, 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 blah. And whenever I was very young, at about age 12, I went through a stage where I said things that I can't believe came out of my mouth to my mom, and I had some questions. And at that point, I wanted to find my family when I turned 18. So at 18, one of the things that we always said was that I was going to get a plane ticket. We're going to figure out who my birth mom was, and we're going to get a plane ticket to wherever she was. But like most 18-year-olds, whenever I actually got to 18, I was more concerned with getting out of this community. Now I love it. I live here again. Nothing against Concordia Parish, but at the time, I wanted to get away. And I had an opportunity to go to college. So instead of going and finding my biological family, I pursued school, and I just got busy with life. And my pastor's wife, Pastor Nita, she's also adopted. And I've come across a lot of people that were adopted, but nobody ever gave me the advice like she did. And she said, she asked me about, finding my biological family, and I told her, I have a family, I love my parents, and I just don't know what I'm going to find. I don't know if I was a secret. I don't know, what could be out there, and I don't know if I want to know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've always questioned and wondered if I had siblings, and I was really curious if they were musical, because, that's my thing. But I, just had this teetering back and forth constantly on whether or not I wanted to do that. And Pastor Nita told me, this is probably 3 or 4 years ago, after you get married and have a baby, when you have a baby, your perspective will change. And I said, yeah, okay. I trusted her, but I was just like, whatever. And then in 2015, I got married to Joshua. So now I'm Bethany Douglas. And Joshua and I promptly had our first child. So Carby was born 10/17/16. So in 2016, I had my son, and immediately, the day he was born, began to think about what it would be like to have to part with him quickly. Because as an adoptee, you think about those things in passing, but whenever you have your own child, it's just different. Your perspective changes so much. And I'm going to try to get through this whole video without being emotional. But, Carby, Josh and I make decisions for him as his parents, and he's here, and we question everything. And so I knew that my biological mom had to question the decision that she made. So because I knew that it had to be a hard decision, no matter her circumstances, no matter what, giving up your child is not an easy decision. So I decided then and there that I needed to let her know that she made the right decision. Now, I didn't have any other backstory. The only thing that I had ever been told growing up is that my birth mom was young. She was about 17. I'm fixing to turn 18. And that I was born in Shreveport. So those are the only two things that I knew for most of my life. And then a couple of years ago, my mom, who she says she has some timers, instead of Alzheimer's, but she just remembers different details at different times. So a couple years ago, she remembered that my birth mother actually shared a birthday with her. So my birth mother's birthday was 12/17 of 70. So now I have a place and a birthday, but I didn't have a name, right? So back in like early October, I spit in a little tube and I sent it off to AncestryDNA.com. And that is a DNA site, and I think it's based out of Utah. It's like the Mormon database or whatever for genetics. And so I sent that off to get some DNA results so that I could try to find some biological family. So now you're kind of up to speed up to this point. I was at a family member's house, and we were just going through all of my connections, trying to see how I'm connected to the Booths, because I have cousins in my adopted family that are connected to the Booths. And so we were trying to make connections here and there and what have you. And my Aunt Judith said, well, why don't you just go to the courthouse? And I said, well, I didn't know that was an option, to just go to the courthouse. Why would I think to do that? Because it was a closed, sealed adoption. Well, turns out that closed, sealed adoptions can be accessed by the adoptee. That meant that my biological family couldn't find me, but I could find them. So on a whim, I stopped by the courthouse and I saw the judge. Well, I saw a person who works in the judge's office. They gave me a little sheet of paper and walked me down to the clerk of court's office. And the clerk of court's office said, here you go. There's a table right over there. You can open it and look at it. So that's what I did. And I got to see a lot of information, a whole lot of information. So it's like $1 a page to get a copy of it. So I just took some notes and then I left. As soon as I left, of course, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have the name now. So let me back up just a little bit. For Christmas, I shared with my mom and dad that I had done the Ancestry DNA sampling. I didn't tell them until then because I wasn't sure how much I would find or what I would find. And I haven't really brought it up much since I was young. Not that they would care or mind or have any kind of bad feelings about it. I just hadn't brought it up, and I wanted some answers before I said, hey, I want to go look, because I didn't want them to stress out about what I might find. I wanted to have answers about what I had already found before I talked to them. But I didn't have anything before Christmas. So at Christmas, I shared with my mom and dad that I had been doing some genealogical research, and they were excited. And my mom looked at me and said, well, do you want to know her name? I said, what do you mean? You know her name? What do you mean? And so she said at the time, Adrienne Reed was my birth mother's name. That's wrong. It wasn't Adrienne. And then a few days later, she said, well, maybe it was Andrea. Anyway, she was very close. Very close. So my parents knew that I had been searching, and they, were asking questions or whatever. And so then when I went to the courthouse and I got this paperwork, I got all this information at once. I was overwhelmed. But my mom had told me on Christmas that my biological grandfather had a huge part in making the decision for my adoption. So I had this new lease on telling him that he made the right decision. Even if, I realized the reality of if he made that decision and it wasn't her decision, their relationship probably could have suffered because of that. And I feel like God's just moving in a way to hopefully mend those bridges that have had trouble for a long time, 29 years old. So, anyway, so once I found out about my grandfather having a hand in it, I really wanted to talk to him too. And long story short, not short, but let's get down to the good stuff. I got my birth mom's name and my grandfather's name. My birth mother's name, drum roll please, is Audra Reed. And my grandfather's name is Richard Reed. And so I looked them up. I actually called my grandfather, didn't know it, didn't know I had the right number. And I went to searching on Facebook. You know, Facebook is like the place to get information and find people, right? Am I right? Okay. So I found that I have siblings. I found out that my grandfather is still living, thankfully, and I did get to talk to him. He is sick, but he is still living, and that is a blessing in and of itself, that I get to tell him, or I got to tell him, thank you. And I also got to talk to an aunt who, you know, I didn't even think about like aunts and uncles and all the things that go with finding your biological family. To share with y'all. So now that y'all have got all that information, y'all got the backstory, let me show you my siblings. Are you ready for this? Okay. This is a picture of my biological mother. Her name is Audra. This is Audra, my birth mother, my biological mother. And let me see if I can get this to not, there we go. So that is Audra. And I have dimples like her, a little bit of the same shape face, right? Okay, so that's Audra. I have a brother. My brother's name is, oh, did I tell you? Yeah, I told you his name. Okay, so my brother's name, one of them's name is Andrew, and his wife, Emily. And this is Andrew and Emily. Look how beautiful they are. Oh, so Andrew is 27. He is the closest to me in age. They've been married longer than Josh and I. And they're precious. And I'm so excited. So that's them. Then the next closest in age to me is Savannah. And Savannah and I have pretty much been talking nonstop for the last few days. We text just about every day, and I'm so excited about having a little sister. We look eerily alike. So this, are y'all ready? This is Savannah. Check that out. Oh my gosh. Y'all, can you tell this is my sister? Is it sort of obvious? Holy moly. There's that. And then I have another little brother. Actually, first, I had 2 siblings to pass. This is a little bit of a sad side note. Not that they're side notes, but my birth mother had a child that was stillborn. And then she also had a child who all of my siblings grew up with and knew. Her nickname was PJ. PJ passed away at age 7. And it was a tragedy for my family, my biological family. She was in a terrible accident, and they say, from what I understand, that Carby looks like her. So what a blessing in the storm, right? But that being said, PJ, ooh, I'm gonna cry. PJ was the next sister, and then after PJ was Ethan, and Ethan is 16 years old. And I'm not going to show you his picture because I haven't got to talk to him yet, and I don't want to do that without his permission. So I want to talk to him first. But that being said, I have talked to all of those people, including my grandfather, which I didn't show you a picture of, but I kind of have his nose, I think, maybe. And so whenever I reached out to Audra immediately gave me all the information that I could ask for. She has been very forthcoming. She's not been secretive or keeping things from me or anything like that. And so she gave me my birth father's name. For those out there who want to know about that, I do know who my birth father was. I'm not going to share his name publicly here or his children's names because I've reached out and I haven't made contact just yet. I have made contact with his son, but he has not made the decision to call me, and he has my number. But I will tell you a little bit about their story. So my birth mom was 17. She was in high school, and he was out of school, but he worked locally, and they met. She was in love, and he was in another scenario. He had other things going on in his life, and they separated, and when she had the baby, he was not present. So his name is not on any of the paperwork that I have, but she did not hesitate. She did not give me multiple names. She knew exactly what name to give me. She knew where he lived. She told me to look in a specific city, and I found him. I found a cell phone number. I texted that cell phone number. It turns out that that was his son. His son, I can't blame him. He will not give me the phone number to call him myself. So I just have to wait. And that's okay. But I did, let them know that I sent him a message on Facebook personally. And I let him know that I'm okay. They made the right decision. And I don't hold any hard feelings towards him. The best thing that I can get out of this is friends and siblings, because I'm the only child. For me, it was about knowing whether or not I had siblings, whether or not they were musical, and my medical history. And in Louisiana, 100% sure in Louisiana, if you're the adoptee and you are 18 or older, you can access your own records. You don't have to have a outstanding reason. You don't have to have a lawyer. You just go to the courthouse. I can't say that for every state, but in Louisiana, you can access your own records. If you have any questions or you want to know more, please feel free to message me. Get in touch with me. I would be more than happy to tell you more about my story. And just a little side note, my siblings, my birth mom, my aunt are all musical. My sister, Savannah, plays the violin, I think. Andrew plays the guitar, and he's dabbled a little bit in piano and some other things. Savannah Jo sings. My Aunt Alicia sings. I think back in the day, Audra sang. And so it's just really cool to make those connections and to have that answered. So, all right, I'm going to wrap it up. Love you guys. Thank y'all for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. Private message me.